So, in case you didn't hear, Netflix recently dropped a new show inspired by the Addams Family called Wednesday. And it was, it wasn't great. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this was rather bad. I did watch the whole thing though. I needed something to play in the background while I worked on completing my Pokédex in Pokemon Scarlet after all. And I considered just doing a lightning review for the show, say it's disappointing and call it a day. But for the next several days afterwards, I could not get this show out of my head. Specifically how uniquely bad it was. And I kept thinking of different things that made me angry or frustrated or made no sense in the long run, and days later I was still mulling it over and came to a realization about something, and that's when I decided I wanted to talk about the show in detail to fully explain myself. So I guess let's dive in, shall we? First off, I just want to say, one of my biggest complaints with the show is the fact that it seems to fundamentally miss the point of the Addams Family. I've seen plenty of people already address this point in detail, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'll try to keep this brief. The Addams Family was originally created as a subversion of the typical American family from the 30s with its comic strips, and then popularized in the 60s with its classic TV series. Fun fact, the actor playing Gomez is actually Sean Astin's father. Gomez Addams is Samwise Gamgee's dad. Yay! Anyways, the family's appreciation for the macabre and other oddities was just the surface-level draw towards its subversion of tropes. But there's plenty of other important factors, like how Morticia is much taller than Gomez, when traditionally families were always depicted with the husband being the taller one. Back in those days, sitcoms and such showed the husband and wife constantly arguing and bickering, and their kids would be rude or wouldn't listen. While with the Addams Family, they always got along and was overly loving and supportive of each other. But not here. Wednesday is just like, straight up hates her parents.
You guys are making me nauseous. Not in a good way.
Now, this attitude and general disregard for how the actual Addams Family is meant to be is nothing new, and I don't even think it's necessarily a bad concept to explore, but it all just displays this overall tone that they didn't really care about their source material, which put a pin in that. I'll get back to that idea later, but before that, I gotta explain the actual show proper. Because regardless of how faithful it is to the original subversion idea of the classic Addams Family, there's more to the show that's trying to be original, so let's just focus on that instead. So the show proper starts with Wednesday attending a regular high school, and all of the students look way older than they're supposed to. Anyways, this whole scene just really hammers home how Tim Burton, or should I say the writers, because let's be honest, Tim probably had very little to do with this production, have not been anywhere near a high school since the 80s. So much so that I thought this did take place in the 80s. But no, they talk about Instagram and whatever, it's meant to be a current story. Listen, Tim Burton, come here, let me tell you something. The beautiful goth girl would not be seen as some weirdo by the student body. If this was reality, boys would be lining up to ask Wednesday to step on them. Being goth or whatever hasn't been considered a weird thing in ages. There have been so many shows and movies and other things that helped normalize the concept of appreciating darker themes. Murder podcasts are like really big and popular. A girl wearing all black just isn't considered a social other anymore, thanks to things like, oh, I don't know, Nightmare Before Christmas being majorly popular? You know, the thing that Hot Topic practically lives off of? The other thing Tim Burton didn't actually make, but slapped his name all over to try to take all the credit for? You remember that one, Timmy? So Wednesday finds out some dudes were bullying Pugsley, her brother. What a surprise, they're all wearing Letterman jackets. The bullies being sports dudes, that's definitely not a tired trope by now. So Wednesday gets back at them by dumping piranhas in their swimming pool, and can I just say, you idiots should have seen this coming. Wednesday doesn't hide the fact she has an affinity for murder and torture.
I feel like electroshock therapy, but without the satisfying afterburn.
Who in the hell would bully the little brother of the girl who's known for that kind of thing. And this happens throughout the whole series, where the bully characters will decide, hey, those kids that are known for actually mauling and torturing people, let's tease them. That seems smart. Oh, also Wednesday has like precognitive abilities, where she gets glimpses of things that happened beforehand, and every time she does, she just whips her head back like this, and they do their damnedest to edit it in a way where it doesn't look totally awkward, but I can't help but feel like it is a little silly looking. Wednesday gets expelled for trying to kill the whole water polo team, and she gets shuttled off to a special school, Nevermore Academy, which she hates because her parents used to go there, and Wednesday just hates her parents.
I have no interest in following in your footsteps, becoming captain of the fencing team, queen of the dark prom.
I do want to say right now, I think Jenna Ortega, the actress playing Wednesday, does a fantastic job. She's a very good actress and does her part very well. In fact, the casting in general is amazing all around. Not only does everyone look the part, but they play their parts very, very well. The problem is, the character of Wednesday herself is just really unlikable. She goes into every conversation with a general malaise and disinterest, and comes across as very condescending. A disinterested heroine who talks down to everyone around her doesn't make for a very engaging main character, don't you think? So Nevermore is actually a school for, like, monsters? Monsters are real and exist in this world and stuff. Oh, except they're called outcasts in the show, because I guess some of them aren't necessarily monsters. Like, one kid has telekinesis, and another kid has bug powers or whatever. And the regular people are called normies. And for some reason, being into the macabre gets the Addams Family labeled as being outcasts. Which I'm just gonna say, that makes no sense. For the Addams Family, it's presented as if just them having an uncommon interest is enough to be an outcast. But by every other standard of the show, the people who are actually outcasts have some sort of magical ability. They're werewolves, sirens, gorgons, witches, things like that. And yeah, Wednesday has visions, but she hasn't told anyone about that. Not even her family. We find out about halfway through the series that her mom also has a similar ability. And even if we accepted that as being all it takes to be considered an outcast, it doesn't explain why Gomez attended the school. He doesn't seem to have any special abilities like this. Pugsley doesn't get to attend the academy. By all accounts, the student body should be in a tizzy because it seems like they've allowed a normie into their school. They get to the school and her principal is played by Gwendolyn Christie, and she is just so pretty. Look at her. Every role she's in, she just crushes it. She's so tall and beautiful. Look at her.
Doesn't usually accept students midterm. But given Wednesday's perfect grades...
Keep Wednesday's perfect grades in mind. I'll bring that back up later. Anyways, they go and meet Wednesday's roommate, Enid, who is a werewolf girl who's preppy and cute and is into pastel colors and has rainbow nails. And if you think this might be a story about a rainbow girl and her goth girlfriend, you'd be wrong. That would make the show actually way more interesting. Hell, even if the story was focused on just solely Wednesday and Enid being friends, it would be vastly more entertaining, but it's not.
This was my parents' idea. It's all a part of their nefarious yet completely obvious plan to turn me into a version of themselves.
Wednesday, honey, what the fuck are you talking about? See, she always goes on and on about how much she hates her family, her mother especially. You can't just say they want to turn you into a version of them when you also openly enjoy everything they do. Like, they didn't force Wednesday to wear all black and be really into murder. She does that on her own accord. It's this really weird dichotomy where Wednesday constantly gripes about her parents and how she hates the things they do and the things that they like, but she also does the things they do and the things they like. It'd be like if she walked up and was like, I hate my mom and dad, they listen to Metallica, and I hate them. And then she turns around and then listens to Metallica. Like, what are you talking about?
Let me give you a wiki on Nevermore's social scene.
I'm not interested in participating in tribal adolescent cliches.
This is one of my biggest issues with how Wednesday as a character is presented to us in this show. Every single line of dialogue she has is just either her shitting on someone, shitting on a concept someone is discussing, or it's her, like, proving she knows more about that topic than the person she's talking to, and then she makes fun of them for liking that topic.
It's a symbol of our connection.
Which one of your spirits suggested this toe-curling tchotchke? I devote an hour a day to my novel. Perhaps if you did the same, your blog might be coherent.
You know you should really get on Insta, Snapchat, and TikTok.
I find social media to be a soul-sucking void of meaningless affirmation. And you must be the self-appointed queen bee. Interesting thing about bees. Pull out their stingers and they drop dead. So you were guided by latent chivalry, a tool of the patriarchy to extract my undying gratitude? For the record, I don't believe I'm better than everyone else, just that I'm better than you.
All we had is drip.
But drip is for people who hate themselves and know their lives have no real purpose or meaning.
You look.
Unrecognizable, ridiculous. A classic example of female objectification for the male gaze.
This isn't, like, cute. This isn't charming. It's not endearing. It just makes your main character fucking insufferable. And I've met people like this, who insisted on being the most right person about something, the smartest in the room, yet also tries to seem disinterested in everything that they talk about. It's not fun to be around that person. It's actually pretty annoying. And by all means, Wednesday wouldn't be considered an outcast because she wears all black and listens to true crime podcasts. It's because she's just obnoxious to be around.
You're in black and white. Like a living Instagram filter.
Okay, so they do this thing where people continually insist Wednesday is very pallid.
Are you feeling okay? You look a little pale.
Wednesday always looks half dead.
Let's see if you bleed in black and white.
And this is just a lie. Jenna Ortega has a natural tan to her complexion. By all means, she has more color to her skin tone than half of the rest of the cast. Enid herself is way more pale compared to Wednesday. Now, I understand the idea of depicting Wednesday as seeming black and white. It fits the original source material, and is an aesthetically interesting idea. Something they even do with the animated movies. The problem is, she isn't. She's a human with a human complexion, so they could have slathered more makeup on her or just cut out those lines of dialogue. I wouldn't care so much about this idea if they didn't insist on bringing attention to it all the time. If your dialogue isn't accurate to how your character actually looks, then do 5 seconds of script editing, come on. There's also this thing where, like, Wednesday doesn't use technology.
I don't have a phone. I refuse to be a slave to technology.
Yeah, our goth hipster who shits on technology is really gonna win over the teen audiences as Wednesday actively degrades them for watching the show on their iPhones. Great idea. So remember that clip I showed earlier where Wednesday is telling her mom how much she hates her and doesn't want to be like her? She specifically pointed out fencing in that scene.
I have no interest in following in your footsteps, becoming captain of the fencing team.
Well, Wednesday, if you don't want to be anything like your mother so much, why did you then immediately turn around and the first thing you do is go to the fencing club? I'm not even kidding. It's my listening to Metallica analogy, but in real time. Complete with Wednesday also insisting she knows so much more than anyone else and she's just way better at fencing too, but she also hates it because her mom likes it, but she's way better at it than you are. Also, she walked through the middle of everyone's matches like an asshole? Why? Oh boy, are you all ready for the first high-action choreographed fight scene? Yeah! Addams Family! I know when I heard Netflix was doing a new Addams Family adaptation, this is what I had in mind. I knew Wednesday was a bad protagonist when I actually cheered at the fact that she lost her stupid fencing match. So Wednesday goes to the nurse's office for her cut from the fencing match, and I'm not even kidding, the very next scene, a gargoyle gets pushed over to try to kill her, and a dude dives in to save her, and then she wakes up back in the nurse's office. She walked out of the nurse's office just to wind up straight back into it not even a minute later. It's just like with the dialogue talking about Wednesday looking black and white. This is another thing that could have easily been fixed with a little bit of script editing. Try to find a way to merge these scenes together. Anyways, she was saved by hot boy Wednesday crushes on #1, Xavier. Oh, but she also has to make sure to tell Xavier that she thinks he's dumb for helping her, but she does think he's cute, but he's also dumb for helping her. She could have been fine on her own.
I didn't want to be rescued.
So I should have just let that thing smash you to mush?
I would have rather saved myself.
It's Thing. Thing shows up. This scene was actually showed as like an early mini trailer on YouTube for a few months before the show came out, and this was the scene that made me lose all hope in the show.
Did you really think my highly trained olfactory sense wouldn't pick up on the faint whiff of neroli and bergamot in your favorite hand lotion?
Wow, Wednesday, that's so cool of you. You're so smart and clever. Wow.
My parents aren't worried about me. They're evil puppeteers who want to pull my strings even from afar.
She's just a petulant child. She's only written to sound like a whining brat. This isn't a disgruntled teenager trying to get back at the man. She's a know-it-all bitch who's mad and privileged. Wednesday's family is super rich, and they cater to whatever she wants. They never reprimand her for anything, even when she's openly rude or nasty to them.
Did your mother tell you we were roommates back in the day?
And you graduated with your sanity intact?
They give her whatever she wants, all the while showering her with love and praise, and she just sits there acting like she's some poor, tortured victim. If you want to write a story about an angry teen who's pissed off at the world, go ahead. There's a ton of great examples of this scenario, but if you do, you have to have a reason they're pissed off at the world. A reason they hate their parents or authority. What audience member is going to sympathize with this? Wednesday isn't a suffering, misunderstood girl. She's a Karen.
Do your plans involve becoming an author? I understand you've written 3 novels about a teen girl detective.
Remember that thing about Wednesday's perfect grades? Yeah, keep this in mind too. They're going to coincide with each other. Just keep it in mind, keep remembering it. This is Wednesday's therapist, by the way, but Wednesday, like everything else in her life, doesn't want to do this, so she runs away and bumps into hot boy she crushes on number 2, Tyler. Oh, but wait, it's also time for the second choreographed fight scene of the episode. Yippee! Yeah, by the way, everything I've addressed so far, this has just been the first episode. So I just want to point out that with both of the hot boys Wednesday bumps into, the same series of events happen. Something happens where Wednesday is threatened, either the gargoyle falling on her or this pack of bullies showing up. For context, they're just wearing the pilgrim outfits as part of like the local theme park, Pilgrim World, which is a choice, for sure. Anyways, in both situations where Wednesday is threatened, the hot boy runs in to help her, and Wednesday instantly demeans them for doing so.
Guys, back off. Stay out of this, Galpin.
Yes, stay out of this.
Wow, you could have been hurt. Are you okay? Of course I'm okay, and I didn't need your help. In fact, I'm upset you even offered it in the first place. Not only am I a master of hand-to-hand combat, but I also would have liked to be crushed to death by that gargoyle. You're a stupid jerk idiot for trying to help me. Thanks for nothing, asshole. And she has a surprisingly similar thing happen to her with her roommate, Enid, only not the saving the day thing. They just argue and Wednesday shits all over Enid for having a hobby, even though Wednesday's hobby is rather similar to hers. And even though Wednesday leaves these people with insults and belittlement towards them, they keep trailing after her, seemingly smitten by her nasty demeanor. Who the hell would want to be your friend if this is how your first interaction with them went?
I'd be kicked out of my family pack with no prospect of finding a mate.
I'm failing to see the problem.
And to be fair, it is a long-running plot point of the show, where towards the end of the season, all of her friends are sick of her and fuck off because Wednesday continually lies to them and manipulates them emotionally, disregards their feelings, and regularly puts them in danger. And after a while, they're all like, hey, you kind of really suck. But just because you have your characters acknowledge the fact your main character has a shitty attitude, that doesn't make it fun to watch. Anyways, Wednesday goes to an amusement park to try to escape the school, but one of the kids she ran into earlier tries to kill her because reasons, and then this really ugly CG monster comes in and kills him instead, so it's up to Wednesday to solve the mystery of who this monster is, and why did it save her that day, and why is it murdering people? I'm not kidding, this is actually the plot of the show. Wednesday Addams solves a murder mystery at her monster boarding school. Who came up with this? The rest of the season is rather boring and convoluted as we follow the misadventures of Wednesday continuing to be painfully insufferable to everyone she meets, while also dedicating all of her time and attention to solving the mystery of who this monster is. All the while, Wednesday needs to make friends, and there's also a mini plot point about, like, her dad being wrongfully convicted of a murder back when he was in high school, and she thinks this is like the worst thing ever, by the way.
But when he was a student, he was accused of a murder that took place right up there.
I would like to remind everyone of this scene from episode 1.
That boy's family was going to file attempted murder charges. I'd have looked on your record.
Terrible. Everyone would know I failed to get the job done.
In fact, Wednesday regularly alludes to the idea of her murdering people.
I actually fillet the bodies of my victims, then feed them to my menagerie of pets.
Rumors been swirling around that you killed a kid at your old school and your parents pulled strings to get you off.
Actually, it was 2 kids.
So, I don't understand how you can not only seemingly take pride in the idea of killing someone openly to your parents, but also parade the idea around to your classmates as if you're doing it for clout, but then also be horrified at the idea that your father also might have tried to kill someone? What? Hell, with Gomez's story, he was at least protecting Morticia, and actually Wednesday finds out Morticia was the one who really killed the guy. You tried killing people for bullying your brother. The word I'm looking for is hypocrisy. That all gets resolved in the obligatory Family Visitation Day episode, because each episode just runs through the checklist of tropes for high school events. Outdoor sport event, check. Family visit? Check. Visiting Hogsmeade? Check. The dance? Check. Also, I saw a bunch of people talking about how the dance is the best part, and I will say, it's at least the most entertaining visually. I like how Jenna Ortega came up with her own choreography, and I like how she based it off of goth punk dance moves from the 80s and 90s. But I kept seeing these fan edits on TikTok set to a pitch-shifted version of a Lady Gaga song. And I thought that was the song that played in the scene, but no. This is actually the song that plays in the episode. A marked downgrade, if I do say so myself. Not quite as fitting with her dance moves, I'd say, which seemed to match the faster pace of Lady Gaga's tempo than the Goo Goo Muck. The dance episode was one of the worst ones, also. First of all, Enid was gonna go on a date with a Gorgon dude named Ajax, but he accidentally stoned himself, and everything made it seem like this was a really dire thing, but he was actually totally fine the next day. But Enid thought he flaked on her for their date, so she decided to go with one of the normie bully characters, who asked her to the dance as a part of a bully thing him and his bully friends had planned. It was dumb. But while at the dance, oops, Enid accidentally spilled punch all over his white suit because it was a snow-themed dance and everyone wore white except for Wednesday, of course. And then when Enid bent over to help wipe up the mess, Ajax showed up and uh-oh, hijinks, why? This whole "it looks like a girl is giving a dude a blowjob from a specific angle" trope, I guess I'll call this a trope. This was already tired when Harold and Kumar's Christmas special did it, and that came out in 2011. We're really doing this here? In 2022, it's all just tired tropes. Oh, with the dance, Wednesday was spying on Xavier because she was convinced he's the murderer, but he thinks she's following him around because she wants to go to the dance with him, so she agrees to go, and then talks to her other friend, Eugene, about how stupid and dumb the dance is. Only stupid, dumb people would want to go to it, and this was just after he told her he wanted to go to the dance.
People like me and you were different. We're original thinkers.
So, you're not going to the Raven either?
Actually, I am.
Uh-huh. But Xavier finds out that she thinks he's the murderer and didn't actually care about going to the dance with him, so he cancels on her. So Wednesday plans to stake out the monster hunt with Eugene, something she knows will be dangerous, even though she knew Eugene wanted to go to the dance. And he even asked her to go with him, but she quickly turns him down. Ew, no, can't do that. We have to do our monster hunting. We gotta solve this monster murder mystery. No dances for us. Meanwhile, Thing asked out Tyler for Wednesday, so Wednesday totally has to flake on Eugene to go to the dance with Tyler. Like, you made such a big deal about how you thought the dance was dumb the whole episode. You're talking about how you hated it, you hate the idea of it, you didn't really want to go to it.
Well, I have more pressing business than to worry about a stupid dress for a dance I don't even want to attend.
There's even a DJ. MC Bloodsuckers.
I'd rather stick needles in my eye.
You talked about that constantly, and you knew Eugene wanted to go. He made it so clear he wanted to go to the dance. Why did you just fucking leave him out to dry while you went gallivanting around doing the thing that you didn't even want to do, and you knew he wanted to go to the— And And to top it all off, Eugene gets blown up and gets hospitalized for most of the season. Great job, Wednesday. I'm really rooting for you now. The whole thing is about Wednesday trying to Nancy Drew the murder mystery, relying on her friends, betraying her friends, realizing she actually liked her friends, and guessing the wrong person like 4 times in a row. Seriously, at the end, Wednesday thinks she solved it, and she goes on a big ol' rant about how smart she is. Clearly, it was so obvious due to these clues she found along the way. She's so smart, and she solved the case. And the show does a lot of heavy lifting to make it seem like Xavier is the monster. Like, he draws the things the monster does because he has psychic visions. He always pops up just after the monster leaves. And so, as an audience member, it's obvious he's a red herring. So Wednesday has her whole spiel about how she figured out it was him, and we all know she's wrong. There's still an episode and a half left, of course she's wrong. But then she does this whole thing like 3 more times, each time still being wrong. Ah, yes, I've solved it. Clearly, there was more going on. With all these clues, I know it was you. Oh shit, she's dead now. No, it wasn't her. I've solved it. Of course, it should have been obvious. If it's not Hot Boy number 1, it must be Hot Boy number 2. It was obvious thanks to all the clues I found. Oh wait, of course, now I've solved it, because it's not just Hot Boy. Clearly, I've pieced it all together. Stop trying to sound smart. You didn't solve shit. All of the other suspects died or got wrongfully accused by you beforehand. And then the 2 people who do it just admit to it. They just tell Wednesday. They walk up to her and like, I was the evil one all along. And then she tries going on her, oh yes, I knew. Spent the whole season trying to figure out who the murderer was, and they had to give you the answer at the end. So time to address the threads I've told you to keep in mind throughout this video. It seems to me like somewhere along the line, the writers might have caught on to the fact that Wednesday is not actually a very likable person, but in an attempt to make her seem quote-unquote cool, they made her practically perfect. She has perfect grades, she's written 3 whole books, and the only reason they're not published yet is because her editor just doesn't understand her genius. She speaks Italian and German fluently and probably a lot more other languages too. She's a master at fencing and martial arts. She can repair any mechanical problem despite not being a slave to technology.
Steam-powered guillotine. I built it when I was 10.
Oh yeah, she made her own steam-powered guillotine, and she was only 10 when she did it. She had to make sure to point that out, that she was only 10 when she did it, because she was already so cool and important and smart when she was only 10. So, in theory, this isn't bad characterization for Wednesday. We find out the reason she hates her mom so much is because she feels like no matter what she tries to do, Morticia did it first and better. A downright interesting dilemma for the Addams family to have, I'd say. But the problem is, Wednesday doesn't act like a perfectionist. She doesn't seem to strive to get good grades or struggle to do any of the things she can do. It instead comes across as Wednesday is practically perfect at everything and also simultaneously doesn't care about any of it. And again, there are other stories about characters who are overpowered, who have mastered these techniques, but they're uninterested with the lack of effort they have when it comes to doing what they need to do. But those stories are interesting because that is the conflict for those characters. Wednesday seems to be trying to tell one story with a character from a different story, and it just doesn't add up. And I don't like using the term Mary Sue much anymore, but that's what it feels like. Wednesday rolls up, proves she's smarter than everyone in the room, succeeds in every physical or mental or any kind of challenge with flying colors, and all the hot boys fall madly in love with her at the drop of a hat. It doesn't make Wednesday come across as cool for insisting on proving she's better than everyone, while also looking down at them for not being as skilled as she is, while insisting on drowning in her own ennui about the whole thing in her whole life. And so I want to revisit that first pin. Remember that one from the very beginning of my video? After thinking about how Wednesday is characterized, the plot of the show, the weird lack of actual Addams Family values, I got to thinking. Grab your tinfoil hats because it's time to start up the theory machine. So it's no secret that in Hollywood, if one production company catches wind that another company is working on something, they will mimic that concept and start production on a similar project as well. This is common knowledge, something people admit to. We all know this happens. Like, it wasn't a coincidence that Ants and A Bug's Life came out close to each other. That's the reason we got 3 different Pinocchio movies this last year. So what I think is Netflix found out there was something going into production. Something that they actually used to have on Netflix, but recently moved platforms. That's right, Monster High recently came out with its first ever live-action movie, an attempt to breathe new life into this beloved franchise, exclusive to Paramount. My theory is that initially, whatever Wednesday was going to be, it was intended to be a Monster High type of movie. After all, Nevermore Academy feels like a Monster High type of school, and the Addams' involvement with the school makes little to no sense in universe. Hell, both shows have the same word for their regular human characters: normies. So I think Netflix found out about Monster High going into production, and they got working on their own similar thing to combat it. What that thing was, at least in my opinion, was never intended to be about the Addams Family. I mean, it kinda makes sense. The Addams Family knows about monsters, but they also don't know about monsters. Like, Enid needs to explain it to Wednesday, but having monsters or outcasts in universe is considered a common thing to the people of Jericho. So when Enid is showing Wednesday around the school, she breaks down the social hierarchy into 4 groups: werewolves, gorgons, sirens, and vampires. And Wednesday befriends one of each of these different types of monsters throughout the season while trying to solve the murder mystery thing. Except for vampire. In fact, there's never a single vampire student introduced throughout the whole show. Well, there's a character named Yoko that I think is a vampire, and they mention her sometimes, but she doesn't actually do anything, and the fact she's a vampire is never explained either. So it's weird, right? That Enid went out of her way to establish the vampires as one of the biggest cliques of the school, but they never played a larger role in the story? My theory is that initially, Wednesday was supposed to be the vampire character of the team. It fits her general aesthetic. We see when she wakes up in the nurse's office, she even sleeps like she's in a coffin. When the bullies prank their dance and make it look like blood has come out of their sprinklers, we even see Wednesday attempting to happily lick the blood off of her finger, and is disappointed when it's only paint. I think initially, the show was intended to be some run-of-the-mill monster show thing, starring a vampire girl who resented her parents, maybe even being a daughter of Dracula, and that's why she doesn't like her parents for some reason. But somewhere along the way, some executive must have decided it wasn't unique enough to greenlight on its own, which, understandable. There's like so many things that are about monster characters. So instead, Hollywood does that other thing it always does, and slap a famous pre-existing name on something for notoriety reasons, and voila, we got Wednesday. Is any of this confirmed? No, this is all just a theory of mine, but I am very confident that this show was not initially written for the Addams Family specifically. It seemingly doesn't care about its source material and barely acknowledges the things that make the Addams Family the Addams Family. For one thing, the family are barely in it. We don't see a lot of the iconic Addams Family characters: Grandma, Cousin-It. By all means, the most iconic Addams Family thing in the show is Thing, but also, he very easily could have been replaced with any cute mascot character. He doesn't talk, he just runs around and does whatever he wants. He could have been a bat, or a spider, or anything. Being Thing is not unique enough for him. The only family member Wednesday meets outside of her parents, brother, and Lurch is Uncle Fester, played by Fred Armistead, who did a surprisingly really good job as Uncle Fester, well done. But he does nothing important. He shows up in the second to last episode only, and all he does is tell Wednesday about a specific book to look for. It could have been anyone who gave her that information: Pugsley, her principal, Enid, whatever. Instead, everything that does feel reminiscent of the Addams Family feels surface level at best. Get it? They snapped twice to get into their secret clubhouse chamber. Do you get it? Because that's what the original show did in the theme song. Wow, so clever, Tim Burton. Wow, so unique, so clever. All in all, it doesn't feel like an Addams Family show. It seemingly ignores or rewrites everything that made me and many others like the classic Addams Family dynamic, making the use of these characters feel superficial at best, an aesthetic choice and nothing more. But even beyond that, if I ignored the original source material it's based on and judged the show entirely on what it is, it's still not fun to watch. It's not fun watching an obnoxious know-it-all belittle everyone around her while she runs around playing Nancy Drew. Wednesday is a painfully unlikable character, and all of the other unique aspects of this world feel unexplored. The monster abilities and the other magical powers the outcasts have feel like an afterthought when looking at the full narrative. There feels like there could have been so much more done with all of these concepts and characters. At the very least, I think it could have been a cool story if the focus was actually about Wednesday making friends. The supporting cast around Wednesday isn't terrible, but unfortunately they all get steamrolled, both with the plot and Wednesday insisting on only focusing on this dumb murder mystery thing. Disappointing is the best way I can put it. There was a lot of potential here, both with the idea of the monster school type of show, and also with the modern live-action look at the Addams Family. Unfortunately, the show misses the mark for both of these ideas.
I brought you frankincense. Thank you. And I brought you myrrh. Thank you. Murder. Judas. No.
Unicorns, what's your favorite food?
Children.
Hi, I'm Renata Bliss, and I'm your freestyle dance teacher.
Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, James Dodds, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Sunny Shy, Azoth, Great Bar, Pentimenta, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Zero to Hero, Keithan, Joseph, Scaring Crows, Messiah Complex, and Jacob. So yeah, did you like Wednesday? Apparently a lot of people watched it. Did you like it? I know some people did. If you did, I'm happy for you. I'm sorry, I just could not. I thought it was awful. What are your thoughts and opinions on the show, on anything I talked about, on my theory about this being a Monster High clone at one point in time? What do you like about the original Addams Family? What do you wish they would have done here, or would have changed or something? Any and all thoughts and opinions, leave them in the comments below. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.